at 6:05 p.m. And we do have some video issues where participants cannot see us yet here in City Hall, but staff is working on rectifying the issue. But I've been assured that anyone participating remotely could hear us. So I'm going to ask everyone to please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance, and I invite everyone participating remotely to do the same. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America
and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
indivisible, with liberty and
justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. And I'll start off with a roll call of the commission. Please verbally indicate you are present when your name is called. Commissioner Kelly.
Present.
Commissioner Parkins.
Present.
Commissioner Laskos.
Present.
Commissioner Motto.
Here.
Commissioner Ticky. Okay, myself, Commissioner Harger. Alternate Commissioner Onofrio.
Present.
Alternate Commissioner Usel. Mr. Rossetti, our administrator.
Present.
Mr. Panico, our consultant. Mr. Panico, I think you're on mute.
Yes.
Ms. Vernasso. Okay, Mr. Panico.
Present.
Okay, thank you. Ms. Vernasso, our recording secretary.
Present.
Very good. Mr. Rossetti, was Ms. Charbonneau attending this evening?
Yes, I'm present.
Oh, good. Thank you very much, Stephanie.
Thank you.
For the record, Mr. Nappy, our downtown development coordinator, is excused. And let me just ask again, is Commissioner Ticky with us yet? Okay. All right, couple points before continuing with today's agenda. We have a continuation of public hearings. Mr. Rossetti will act as the Zoom meeting host. While commissioners will be able to make comments throughout the meeting, the chair asks that you please identify yourself and wait to be recognized by the chair before speaking to make sure we're not all speaking over each other, to make sure our recording secretary and our stenographer are clear as to who is speaking. This evening, we have two public hearing continuations, and I'd like to share the protocol for each. Mr. Rossetti will indicate if any written comments were received from members of the public no later than 24 hours before the start of this evening's meeting. If written comments were received, they will be read into the record. The applicant and/or its associates will make their presentation or present additional information since the continuation of the opening of the public hearings. The commission can ask questions during the presentation or its conclusion. The applicant and/or associates can answer commission questions at the time they're presented or at the conclusion of the presentation. Public will be recognized to comment on the application. Applicant's attorney and our associates will be given the opportunity to address any comments or questions from the public after the last person from the public has been given the opportunity to speak. If the commission feels further information is needed from the applicant, the chair will ask for a motion to continue the public hearing. If a public hearing remains open, the commission is not allowed to make any public comment, discuss any part of the applicant's and/or his associate's presentation, or receive any additional information from anyone. If the commission feels the applicant and/or his associates have answered all questions and have addressed all concerns from the commission and/or public, the chair will ask for a motion to close the public hearing. Staff will then schedule a discussion about the application at upcoming commission meeting, during which time the commission will be asked by the chair and how it wants to proceed. Mr. Rossetti, is there anybody new that joined us?
Yeah, Ticky.
Okay. Commissioner Ticky, are you with us?
Yes, I am.
Thank you very much. Okay, continuing, and these are the guidelines for members of the public who choose to speak at the point in the public hearing. When the chair calls for public comment, please use the Zoom's raise your hand feature to identify yourself as a member of the public who wishes to speak. After you're identified by Mr. Rossetti, please state and spell your name and state your address to assist the recording secretary and stenographer when doing the minutes and transcript of the public hearing. Please present your comments and questions to the chair only, not to the applicant and/or his associates. Comments from the public should address specific criteria of the zoning regulations, the merits of the application, and be new information, not a repeat of comments previously presented. Members of the public are expected to practice appropriate etiquette by being quiet, observant, and respectful. Disruptive attendees may be removed from verbally participating. So the first agenda item is continuation of the public hearing for application 2125 Shelton Plaza, Dominic Thomas for 265 Bridgeport Avenue, LLC, at 265 Bridgeport Avenue, Assessors Map 92, Lot 19, petitioning for a special exception application in a restricted business zone, RBD, on 0.67 acres for a 4,060 square foot retail and office building with a service station and on-site parking. And just to remind, I'll go into the history of this particular application, but before I do so, for the record, alternate Commissioner Usel is recusing himself from participating in any discussion or action for this application. Mr. Rossetti, Commissioner Usel, are you there? It's hard to see you on this. Okay. So Commissioner Usel is present. All right, several materials were submitted by the applicant and previously posted by to the city's website, including a special exception application and statement of use, architectural, site, engineering, and landscape plans, a property survey, a drainage report, a letter from the city engineer, an overall roadway plan layout of the Constitution Boulevard West Extension, a traffic study, a letter in opposition. Recent documents posted to the city website are revised site and engineering plans, 2 radius maps, a letter from the applicant's traffic engineer, a letter from a traffic consultant hired by an area resident, and a peer review report of the traffic study. Chair also received a letter dated May 17th, 2022 from Attorney Joel Green, who represents an area LLC, who requested that as the latest traffic report was only posted this week, that the commission continue the public hearing to allow his traffic expert the time to review it and prepare a written response. The commission will act on that request after I remind everyone of the timeline of this application, and we review new materials that were posted to the city's website and receive information from new information from the applicant, and also have allow the public to comment on any new material that had been posted. So on this timeline, the public hearing opened November 17th, 2021, and that's when Attorney Thomas, representing the applicant, reviewed the 3 proposed uses for this site. Gasoline retail sales permitted by site plan approval, a 2-story building with a first floor 4,000 square foot convenience store, and a second floor 4,000 square foot office permitted by special exception. Attorney Thomas indicated the gas station and convenience store would eventually operate 24/7. If a second floor was built over the convenience store, the office tenants would apply for a certificate of zoning compliance. Attorney Thomas also indicated the applicant had applied to Department of Transportation of the state of Connecticut for the ability to create breaks in a pre-existing non-access line. The applicant's architect and engineers further reviewed the proposal. Mr. Panico indicated that section 24.8.6 requires a 20-foot green belt along all streets. During the public portion, 14 members of the public spoke for and against the project, and the commission voted to continue the public hearing. At the continuation of the public hearing on January 26, 2022, Attorney Thomas indicated Connecticut Department of Transportation would allow only 1 break along the access line along Bridgeport Avenue, and the concept of 5 lanes at a Constitution Boulevard intersection was discussed. Attorney Thomas requested a 70-day extension of the public hearing, and the commission voted to do so. Mr. Rossetti, any new correspondence from the public that needs to be read into the record?
Touched on Mr. Green's.
Yeah, I touched on Attorney Green's. No. Okay.
Anything that we received, sorry. We did receive one other report at the end of the filing period, but since it seems like the commission will keep this open, that will be published online and part of the record for all to read and respond to.
Okay, thank you. And are there any other reports from any city agency?
No.
No, okay. All right, Attorney Thomas, you're present?
He's on mute.
You're on mute, I think, Attorney Thomas.
Yes, I am present. Attorney Dominic Thomas, Conan Thomas, 315 Main Street, Derby, Connecticut.
Okay.
Representing
Can I
the,
just, go ahead. Go ahead.
representing the applicant.
Okay.
I will state for the record that there are obviously a lot of the items, the peer review and everything were posted online just yesterday. I became aware of that. In addition to that, the extensive response to the peer review, which we will address tonight, which was filed a week or so ago, was not put on the website. And we did today, as a result of the conferences that were had and the communications with both the city engineer and the peer review, there was a set of revised plans, which I emailed to Mr. Rossetti today, along with responses that had that were written responses of the discussions with the city engineer, resolving the city engineer's issues, which will be discussed. So they hopefully will be posted as soon as possible, but regardless of that, I will provide electronic copies to Attorney Green. In joining with Attorney Green because of the circumstances, yes, I believe the public hearing will need to be kept open. I will say for the record, it has gone on for a long time, to no fault of anybody. There's the peer review took a long time. There were some other issues that we took out, we set up and discussed and had with staff and with others. We had discussing Constitution Boulevard. We had conference calls and Zooms to review it. I would hope that the commission would and would request strongly, because of the length of time, that the commission would continue this public hearing to the June 22nd public hearing. I know you will probably have to adjust. I'm sure that some of the items down that night are probably items that I have filed, but I think it's important that we focus on that night to be able to close the public hearing, because it's been on long enough. It's been thoroughly addressed, and that will give the Attorney Green and his clients the opportunity to review and respond, and we can hopefully conclude on that night and respond with their reports. So I would hope the commission and the staff would consider that. I will state to you that some other items that we've been discussing all along have been when is not that it's that relevant. I mean, it's relevant to our application, but I don't think it impacts it. Seriously, it actually impacts it in a beneficial way. But the Constitution Boulevard, within the next, it is anticipated sometime within the next several months, few months actually, construction will be commencing on that. And I know that they are still communicating with the DOT concerning addressing the issue of the intersection and the lanes going through. We have, again, made several efforts. There's been comments of the public, and the public's comments were mainly focused on the issue of traffic and the intersection of Cott Street, Old Bridgeport Avenue, and Bridgeport Avenue. I do believe that the location of this, especially when you consider the proposed development by the city of the light industrial park, it's an appropriate use in this location because of the amount of employees that are going to be brought up to that area. And this is a service we believe that they will need, but it is also, as explained previously in the public hearings, the gas station is actually a permitted use by site plan. The other two uses are by special exception, which is why before you with the public hearing. We'll also state for the record that I will consult with Mr. Rossetti tomorrow to present to him an extension letter to carry the time period beyond the hopefully would just be on the June 22nd date to conclude the public hearing, and thereafter for the commission to deliberate on this. So with that, and to move it along, I would like to first call on Kermit Hua, our traffic engineer, to review. Yes.
Would you mind, Attorney Thomas, just because there were new site development plans, the sheets that are marked SE1, SE2, SE3, and SE4, and it shows only one entrance to and from Bridgeport Avenue. Is that the only change on these revised plans?
No, you're going to also have Brian McMahon address. There's actually a second set that was delivered today,
Okay,
which
so
is actually 6 sheets, which incorporates that set that you are looking at, which was delivered, I believe, back in April. I'm not sure, but it was delivered some time ago. And
April 14th.
Yeah, it has a date, April 14th on it.
right. So it was delivered some time ago. It addressed the work session, the comments at the last public hearing of Mr. Panico, and then a further and related work session with staff to clarify the comments. So it addressed the issue of the relocation of the dumpster pad, relocation of various things, and the providing of the 20% of green space. So that is a lot of what that addressed. The ones that were provided today, and again, Brian McMahon will review them in more detail. They are the same as that, but now with incorporating some of the traffic updates that were the response to the peer review. So if I may screen share, I could bring up Mr. Hua's response to the peer review.
Attorney Thomas, I have one more question.
Yeah.
There were 2 GIS maps that were.
Those were filed with the notices back in November. I have no idea why they're just being posted now, but.
But what's the significance of these? One shows an oval dotted line and one shows more of a circular.
There are when you go on the GIS for me to do the notices within 200 feet. I use the Shelton GIS, but since there were 2 parcels, I do it for each parcel.
Okay, so this is for the area of the residents that were to be noticed.
Right, exactly.
That's all I need to know. All right. Okay, so why don't you go ahead with your traffic?
Okay, can you, is Kermit there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, Kermit, can everybody see the my screen?
Could you just zoom to the whole page?
Excuse me?
Could you zoom to the whole page?
To the whole page, correct.
No, zoom to the whole page because people can only see half a
For
page.
the whole page.
Yeah, right, I know, I'm.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Okay. Thank you, Attorney Thomas,
Wait,
for the record. Okay,
Before you.
go ahead.
This is impossible for us to read on the screen.
We have to look at this one.
Yeah, we don't have a printed version of this.
You were, again, it was submitted a week ago. I don't know if it was submitted directly by Mr. Hua to the, can you see the screen at all?
Zoom in a little bit.
Zoom in.
Can you?
Yeah, but let me just-
I mean, I think it might be,
I think for now, this is fine. And probably we can,
well, we've got to make sure the chairman can, and commissioner can see it. I mean, I can blow it up and scroll down. So
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, that's fine.
okay, if I did this and then simply scroll down,
okay, that's fine.
okay?
Alex, was this posted?
Yes.
Because what I saw was something from January.
There were 3 posted.
All right. All right, go ahead then.
If I may continue, good evening, Madam Chair, members of the commission. For the record, my name is Kermit Hua, KWH Enterprise LLC in Meriden, Connecticut. We received the commission's consultant SLR's comments about 3 weeks ago, I responded on. The one thing I just want to mention is, I really appreciate the town planner for hosting a meeting, allowing us to meet with the SLR staff online, so to go over the comments. Really appreciated the effort. So that's very helpful for us to putting together these responses. The response letter dated May 10th, about a week ago, was submitted to the town planners and other parties, including the town's consultant SLR. Tonight, I will just briefly go over the key points of SLR's comments and our responses. I will not, read everything on the pages. If the chair or the commission members have questions after my presentation, please feel free to raise those questions, or you can interrupt me as I go along. As you can see on the screen, nothing comment 2. Comment 3-1, SLR essentially looked at the study area. In other words, the scope of the traffic study we submitted to the commission. Put it another way, the number of intersections we included in the traffic analysis. Their conclusion is the last sentence, if you can see it, based on that criteria, the study area is acceptable. So that's the point I want to mention. Then go to comment 3-2. It discussed the volumes we collected for this effort in late 2021, and that adjustment we made. And again, the last sentence of SLR's comment, consequently, the traffic volumes used are considered acceptable.
Oops, sorry.
That's okay. Comment 3-3, it talks about capacity analysis for the existing condition. Again, the analysis was reviewed, the results are acceptable. If we can go to the next page. Comment 4-1, it deals with no build volumes. In other words, the no build scenario without the future no build scenario, traffic scenario without this development, and including the growth rate we used, which was approved by Connecticut DOT. And the conclusion from SLR's, the way we did that was acceptable. Now, comment 4-2. SLR consultants questioned whether we need to include the traffic from a town center at a Shelter Ridge development as part of the background traffic. We sorted this out during our online meeting with them because there currently is no final local approval, as we understand it, for that town center at the Shelter Ridge development. So that's the reason we did not include it in the background traffic of the analysis.
Mr. For the traffic consultant, that
Yes.
particular project, Shelter Ridge, is 2 miles south. That still is within the study area?
It is not within a study area. I think what's relevant is we looked at a traffic study prepared for that development. We sort of referenced the traffic volume they used, against our collected counts. So
Okay. All right.
that's where that comes in.
Okay.
Comment 4-3, they ask whether there are other background developments that might affect the traffic, especially the intersection of Court Street and Bridgeport Avenue. In this case, we agree there are, recently there's the 3090 Bridgeport Avenue project that went before the commission. So in the revised traffic analysis, in response to these set of comments, we add the traffic from 3090 Bridgeport Avenue to the revised analysis. So that's our response.
New apartment building?
The apartment building, yes, Old Bridgeport Avenue, right east of the car dealership, I think,
Yes,
Right.
yep. Mhm.
Comment 4-4, trip generation. Again, they go through our method and the land use and so forth. Again, the last sentence, consequently, the trip generation estimates are acceptable. So I want to highlight that the town's consultants consultant thinks
Excuse me.
agree with our trip generation methods and estimates.
Okay,
Excuse me.
Commissioner Kelly has a question.
The recommended trip generation,
Right.
you talked about the apartment house. Is that the only thing you included?
As
I'm
the
not quite
background
sure.
trip, yes.
All right, I'm not quite sure if and this came into fruition maybe a couple of months ago, the Mass property. Are you going to include something for that? Which, and you know, a lot of properties been sold up there, so it is going to be a project. It's not like Shelter Ridge in a kind of a dormy situation. This is going to be a valid project.
Well, I can jump in the Moss property, because since I'm involved in the Moss property, I don't think would be considered because no application has ever been made for the, not even for the subdivision. So at a point where, yeah.
Isn't there an application for the road? Isn't that road?
No,
gonna be on the
there's an
drive?
application for the road. There's no application for uses on the
Oh, so-
lots.
Okay, so seen in the paper that one of the companies bought so many acres, we should consider that?
I'll leave it up to Kermit to respond, but I don't think you, in the IT, I don't think you consider that it's really speculative. No one knows what they're going to do until they file an application.
Okay,
Okay,
Is that correct, Kermit?
That is correct. I agree, absolutely agree. I think, if we apply the same criteria, we used on the town center development, I think, if a project has been approved by the town, we are more comfortable including them in the background traffic. If it's only at a discussion phase, who knows, whether that will go forward in the current form they are suggesting or not. So we really don't have anything to go by if they have not formally submitted anything to the town or have anything approved by the commission. The comment 4-5, the commission's consultant commented on the appropriateness of the pass-by trip rate of 62%, which was based on ITE data in this case. I think their main point is OSTA, the Office of State Traffic Commission, of the previous STC, tends to be more conservative in applying pass-by trips. On their review project in the past, their practice is allowing up to 20%. But in this case, we do have IT data. My argument at a meeting with SLI is, this project is not subject to OSTA review. And our experience dealing with CTDOT district office, which we will have to seek an encroachment permit, they will review the traffic study. They are usually okay with using ITE pass-by rate, in this case, 62%. So that's my response. At district office, in my experience, accepted these kind of percentage, and this is not subject to OSTA review. So my professional opinion is the 62% pass-by rate is appropriate. If we may go to the next page, page 3, comment 4-6. The trip generation volume figure should show pass-by trips, and they ask us to show those trips in separate figures. I attach those figures as part of this submission. If you print out the attachments to this response letter, they are all included in the appendices. Comment 4-7. The SLR is looking for more details in the trip distribution. Which is 50% to the north and 50% to the south along Bridgeport Avenue. Here, as you can see, I provide 2 paragraphs of response responses to that question. There are several factors. The reason I use the 50-50 split between the 2 approaches. One is the current volume is almost equally split between the 2 approaches of Bridgeport Avenue. The second point is the location is located in the midpoint of the 2 ramp intersections. One is to the north via Constitutional Boulevard South, and one is right on Bridgeport Avenue. And also the third point I made was that, it's a sort of a central location in these comparable suburban area, with Stratford to the north, to the south, and Shelton and Derby to the town center to the north. So it's sort of in a central location. That's the reason I use 50-50%. So I also, provided more information in figures 7-1, 8-1, and 9-1 as described here in the appendices attached to this response letter. So that's my response to that comment. If you can scroll down, Attorney Thomas, comment 4-8, revised figure for latest showing the distribution. Yeah, because one of the main changes, including the old Bridgeport Avenue background traffic, so that had been revised. That is now part of the appendices to this letter. Comment 4-9, capacity analysis. Yeah, the main point, their concern is really about the closeness of two intersections on Court Street. As you may have experienced if you drive through the area, where is the old Bridgeport Avenue intersection with Court Street? Then immediately you have Court Street intersection with Bridgeport Avenue. Their concerns is, people waiting to exit Court Street may block the intersection of Court Street and Old Bridgeport Avenue. And so even though the volumes on Old Bridgeport Avenue is not that high, and people will not be able to turn out of Old Bridgeport Avenue. As a solution, we discussed at a meeting with SLRs, we are proposing a sign of do not block intersection facing the eastbound traffic on Court Street before the Old Bridgeport Avenue intersection. And also we are proposing to stripe sort of those boxes at the intersection of Court Street and Old Bridgeport Avenue, along with that do not block intersection. So the hope is people do not stay in that intersection and allow people to exit from Old Bridgeport Avenue. So that's two measures we are proposing. Comment 4-10, yeah, the consultant commented that we were using highway capacity manual version 2000. They want to see highway capacity manual 6th edition. So in response to that, I made the changes. And as you can see here, that I included all the tables, traffic analysis tables that follow the highway capacity manual 6th edition as the consultant wished. So that's have been addressed in those 3 tables. On the next page, comment number 5. Yeah, that's essentially the same comment about the closeness of the 2 intersections. So the response is the same. I'm at the comment number 5. Yeah, response is the same. We're proposing a do not block intersection sign and a pavement marking, which is reinforce the message of do not blocking intersection. Then about site plans, those probably Brian is in will be in a better position to address those. Just briefly, we provided all the truck turning movement exhibits the consultant asked for, including fire trucks and the largest tractor trailer, oil delivery tractor trailer for the site. We provided all those exhibits. Comment site plan -2, no left turn sign should be provided at right only egress driveway. They're talking about a driveway on Bridgeport Avenue. I think that sign has been incorporated on the site plan. Then at the bottom of page 5, comment additional considerations -1 sidelines. I think those have the sidelines both on Bridgeport Avenue and also on Court Street have been added to the site development plan. Now we are at page 6, comment additional considerations -2 crash analysis. So that has been included on the following page, page 7. The crash analysis for the intersection of Bridgeport Avenue and Court Street, Bridgeport Avenue, and the Constitutional Boulevard South, and on Court Street. So, I basically summarized the accident records for the past 3 years, 2019 through 2021. There were 1 accident at the intersection of Cott Street and Bridgeport Avenue, which is our key access intersection. So not much going on here in terms of accident records over the 3-year period. Also on Cott Street, remember, this is the whole length of Cott Street, not only the section that next to the gas station. We only have one accident on Cott Street. The records did show 15 accidents over a 3-year period at the intersection to the north, which is the intersection of Bridgeport Avenue and Constitutional Boulevard South. So on average about 5 per year at that relatively busy intersection, because it has access to the ramps if you go further east on Constitutional Boulevard South. That's the accident summary. We are at page 7. Comment on Constitutional Boulevard West. SLR basically said, this gas station most likely happened before all the proposed improvements to Constitutional Boulevard South will happen, and that comment really does not require any response, from us. So that's all I have, Madam Chair, unless the commission members have any questions.
Any members of the commission have any questions for Kermit? Mr. Panico, how about you?
It's difficult to respond at this time. I don't agree with a lot of the statements that were made, but I think it needs further discussion and review before I can comment intelligently on it.
Thank you.
The one thing I would say is I think it's the suggestion to post signs and do pavement markings. There are other places in town where their signs have been installed saying no left turn, and people do it anyways. There are areas in town, especially downtown, where you have the pavement markings where it shows that you're not to block the intersection, and something happens where that road has to be torn up and those markings aren't replaced. So while it's something that would be maybe a good idea, it doesn't always work out to do what it's supposed to.
Also, my major concern at that intersection is traffic coming off of Bridgeport Avenue that wants to proceed on Old Bridgeport Avenue. And if they're not able to, and they have to stop and wait, you're going to be blocking traffic, that direction of traffic on Bridgeport Avenue. I don't know how you can avoid it. I don't have a suggestion to avoid, to correct it, but it's going to be a major issue. And the volumes are going to go up a lot on Cott Street of motor vehicles trying to leave to get onto Bridgeport Avenue to go east or west. I have one question. I have one question for the applicant's traffic engineer. Has any of this material been reviewed or discussed with the local police department, their traffic division?
We don't, I mean, that would be something that staff would submit to them. I think the whole point of the commission was to hire a peer review traffic engineer, because as you know, the case law is quite firm that the traffic engineers, it is a expert generated thing. These are experienced people, and that's why it wanted to be reviewed. I mean, you certainly can't make determinations based on speculation as to whether or not the road's going to be turned up, or you can't base it on anticipated illegal conduct by drivers. You have to base it on what the traffic engineers say, and that's why the peer review was done by a certified traffic engineer and responded to it.
Mr. Rossetti, was anything submitted to the police department? No. Okay. We will ask staff to make sure that that is done. So, any other further questions about the traffic?
Chairwoman, Commissioner Parkins, I have a question on that. Just looking for clarification on that very last paragraph that's up on the screen, that the roadway extension will be a net positive, the ability to leave the proposed site, turn right onto Cott Street, and access the new Constitution Boulevard. How are you leaving the site and turning right onto Cott Street?
They want you to go up the hill and then pick it up at the top of the hill.
So that means that road will be connected.
Yeah, if you see the, Commissioner Parkers, if you look at the thing that, the plan that I submitted, which was from the wetlands application, and we were showing this really to address the comments of some of the medical professionals, about where their patients would go. When Constitution Boulevard West is completed, you can then, and this, by the way, is the comment of SLR, not of our client. This is in the peer review, which is posted on the website, and I'm assuming you have a copy of it. If you went out the Cott Street entrance and you wanted to go to a light, if you know, there are times of the day when the traffic is somewhat heavy. There are also times of the day when it's light coming out of Cott Street. But if it was heavy and you wanted to go to the light, you could turn right on Cott Street. Cott Street actually becomes, what is it, Blacks Hill Road, I think, at some point, and intersects with Constitution Boulevard. And you would then turn right on the new Constitution Boulevard and go down to the light.
But is it not currently a cul-de-sac?
Currently it is, yes.
Wow.
This references the roadway extension project. That's Constitution Boulevard West.
Okay, and has it been confirmed with the city engineer that that will happen?
That's the plan that was submitted, yes.
We got a
That's the plan
referral.
we have to bid. Huh?
We did get a referral from them about doing that.
Yeah,
What do you mean we got a referral? We got a referral from the city engineer that they want to see that done?
We got a referral from the city of their intention to create that intersection.
That causes concern for me.
It causes a lot of concern for me too. If our problems are going to be during peak hour, and during peak hour, Constitution Boulevard's going to have a heavy flow of traffic coming down that hill towards Bridgeport Avenue, and to expect these cars coming out of the gas station, convenience store, to turn up the hill to that intersection to try to get into that flow, they're going to find that that doesn't work, and they're going to go back to their old turn, which is left to the other.
Again, this is the traffic engineers saying this, and I will present for the record, just so it can be seen, I will present so that everybody could see the appellate court case and a very thorough Superior Court case done by Judge Berger concerning traffic issues. And this was cleared up because speculation, it isn't speculation, it's engineering.
I don't think the traffic is going to be caused by this project, Attorney Thomas. That's not my point. I don't think the traffic is going to be generated or caused by this. I think it's going to be caused by people coming. It's going to happen regardless of whether this project's here, if Cott Street is opened up, because people are going to use it as a cut through to get closer, faster to Bridgeport Avenue to go south than to wait at any intersection, because that's, people just have no patience for lights.
Well,
Again, I just wanted to answer. I had asked the question previously and I never got an answer, but now I have that answer. So thank you.
I
Madam
believe.
Chairman?
Hold on a second, Mr. Panico.
Okay.
Attorney Thomas, what were you about to say? And then I'll recognize.
I was just
Mr.
saying,
Panico.
unrelated to our project, I believe there is discussions taking place with respect to how to address the old Bridgeport Avenue issue. It's not our issue, other than for us to address what the peer reviewer brought up. However, on a more longer term is what I'm trying to say, unrelated to this, that is one of the discussions that I believe is taking place when the discussion is, what are you going to be doing with the intersection and how are you going to be doing it? And I'm certainly sure they will try to make it even more safe than it is.
All right, Mr. Panico?
My question for the traffic engineer is, has there been any discussion at all with the state of Connecticut about the possibility of inserting a traffic signal that's coordinated with the traffic signal to the north and to the south, so that they all work together? I know the comment's going to be made that it's too close to the other signal. Well, it's not too close if the signals are coordinated.
Mr. Panico, I can respond to that. The volumes at least the existing volume plus the development volumes are just too low to justify a traffic signal.
Well, I don't know how you can, isn't the consideration also the ability to negotiate the intersection as well as the volume of traffic?
Well,
And also, as Commissioner Parkins pointed out, if there is a proper intersection at the upper end of Cott Street with Constitution Boulevard, during peak hour, aren't you going to have additional traffic burdens that are going to take that turn in an attempt to short circuit one of the signals?
If I may, I think you're absolutely right. There will be redirection of traffic as a result of the connection of Cott Street to Constitutional Boulevard. But at this point, because this is a DOT-/city project, we don't know the magnitude of the redirection of traffic and the result of the additional traffic on Cott Street. So I'm not in a position to speculate whether these additional traffic will warrant a signal at the intersection of Cott Street and Bridgeport Avenue. Just based on the volumes I have, the current volume and the development volume, it will never warrant a signal because the Federal Highway Administration, their manual is very strict about the warrants for traffic.
That's despite the fact that you show a level of service of F.
That is correct. Even you have F, you don't have enough volume. You just don't meet the Federal Highway guideline for a new signal.
This is
Go ahead.
be an issue regardless of whether this station is built there or not.
Mhm.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah,
So
I have
it's
one-
really not, it's really not for this applicant to address the issue. It's going to be an issue for the city to address
Yeah.
if they open up that road.
City may want to consider closing Cott Street to Old Bridgeport Avenue, Bridgeport Avenue, and anybody that needs to access Cott Street goes down Old Bridgeport Avenue further up by the car dealer and comes back. It may be awkward, but who knows?
That's the engineering department's role.
Yes, exactly.
Years ago, when Constitution Boulevard was first conceptualized, an at-grade intersection at that location was not favored, and it was indicated as being a grade separated so that there's no interchange of traffic, simply a continuity of the street system. But apparently that was foregone for a variety of reasons.
Mhm. Staff had a question. Alex, you want to come on over?
Kermit, going off of what Chairman Harder just said, I don't remember if this was discussed at any of the meetings or not. I think it was, but was there discussion on closing off the bend in Cott Street to Bridgeport Avenue and then routing traffic all the way kind of further towards the car dealerships up Old Bridgeport Avenue? And, of course, once Constitution North is done, they'll have that entryway?
Alex, this is Dominic, could you repeat that one more time? I trying to.
Yep, so you have access to this site off of Cott Street and Bridgeport Avenue.
Correct.
When you come out on Cott Street from this location and make a left, you can then proceed on to Bridgeport Avenue through a curb cut. Has there been any consideration? I don't remember any, but I could have forgotten. Is there any consideration to closing off that curb cut between Cott Street and Bridgeport Avenue so that traffic would have to bend around to Old Bridgeport Avenue and go up towards the car dealerships, or make a right and go up towards Constitution North?
There was no discussion in the meetings that we had over the intersection. The only discussion that we had was that there is some planning to address some of the issues as to whether or not the extension and the widening of the road and the extension of the lanes could potentially, and this is not, again, it's Commissioner Parkins mentioned, it's not related to us. I'm just relating to you conversations that were part of people's speculation as to whether or not that extra lane should go all the way up to the light at the entrance, and therefore, as a result, in some fashion, eliminate the island of Old Bridgeport Avenue, and the access to Old Bridgeport Avenue then would be at a light. There was some discussion of that. No discussion that I am aware of actually closing the Cott Street entrance to Bridgeport Avenue.
Okay, and so our question then is, what are your thoughts about that?
If I may, Attorney Thomas, I
Yeah.
think this is a suggestion that involves many more parties than this site. Obviously, we are not in a position to speak for those who are affected. I think this will be really a city level effort.
Correct, and city, state, and, you know, there was some concern, there was a pushback when we suggested, there was a suggestion at one point to dead ending Cott Street up by the medical center.
Right.
There was pushback with respect to that. So I'm not sure. I mean, certainly everything should be open, but again, as Commissioner Parker has mentioned, it's not, we're trying to address it. That's why a peer review was done, and we believe we can address it for our traffic volumes. There may be something coming down the road, and not only the city and the state, but all the applicants who go up there, and any of them, and Kermit, you correct me if I'm wrong, any of those applicants up there that are going to be subject to OSTA regulations, they're going to have to address it, correct?
Correct, yes.
In some fashion. Because there are going to be some large ones that are probably OSTA required.
Right, and this intersection will definitely be part of the OSTA review. I'm talking about the intersection of Cott Street and Bridgeport Avenue.
Okay.
You would think the city, in anticipation of that, would want to resolve the major issues now.
I don't think you should assume they're not trying to work on it. That's all I can say, okay? I don't think you can assume that they're not. There's active ongoing discussions. And it's just that our site, regardless of whether it's developed, undeveloped, or anything like that, our site is a very small part of what you're talking about.
All right, well, I'll
right.
ask staff to run that by engineering.
Okay.
So do any of the commissioners have any questions for the applicant? Okay, Mr.
Not regarding traffic, but
Yeah, we do have the engineer next, if we can bring
Okay,
the
go ahead
engineer.
then.
Okay, hold on. Brian, are you there?
I am. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Can you see my screen? Can you see the map now up on the screen?
I can.
Okay. And Brian, do you want to go through the map first and then through the response to the engineer?
So I think Dominic, I might be able to run through quickly what the changes that have occurred
Okay.
on the plans. And I've sort of grouped it into what responses to the city engineer's comments, some minor comments that have been incorporated as part of the peer review, and then just a couple of lingering general changes to the site plan that have been implemented here. And I thought what I might do is just tick down the city engineer's comments here, and I can explain to the commission how it has been responded to in the plans.
Brian, did you state your full name for the record?
Of course, Brian McMahon, licensed professional engineer with Redness and Mead Inc. Out of Stanford.
Okay.
And so I'm going to run down real quickly. There's not too many of them. The city engineer's comments, they were from way back when in the original, when the application was originally filed. I'm going to jump.
Yeah, I think I can bring, hold on.
I
have the responses right here. So
yeah, I have it right. Yep. So I have it on my screen as well. So I'm going to jump around just to group them in what is relevant to the plans and what is not relevant to the plans.
Okay.
So the fuel storage tanks, that first bullet point there, City engineer asked that we depict those with elevations on the plans. We have done so on sheet SC1 and SC3. We've done so through coordination with the prospective vendor of the tanks. If you could scroll down. You can, wait a second. The second bullet point, encroachment permits are required from the Connecticut DOT. We acknowledge that those permits aren't secured until a contractor is assigned and it's ready to go to construction, but it is fully understood that any work within the right-of-way cannot occur unless and until those permits are secured. If you could scroll down, Dominic, please. There you go, that's good. And so the sump elevations are missing. The sumps are the spaces between the outlets of a catch basin and the bottom of the catch basin itself. We have added that information, as you can see, onto sheet SC-3, as well as the next comment, the inset map, we have added to sheet SC-1. The next comment showed 10-foot fill envelope around the infiltration system, the stormwater mitigation system. And the city engineer questioned whether any structures that might be located in the area would affect the storage capacity and the performance of the stormwater attenuation system. We have shown that fill envelope on sheet SE3, and we have confirmed that it has no bearing. Any structures or pipes in the area have no bearing and on the capacity of the stormwater management system. The existing 24-inch concrete pipe that runs through an easement on our site and drains water from 9 Cott Street, which is the medical building adjacent to the site and just west of the site. We have extended that to show the full pipe run as requested. That is on sheet SC-3. Details of the access to the subsurface infiltration system for maintenance purposes. We have added that in and is reflected both in plan view on SC3 and in detail on SC6. You questioned where the 36-inch concrete pipe begins. It actually begins on our site. It is an open-ended culvert and has been shown on the plans and continues to be shown on the plans. This next comment is a bit of a moot point. He had expressed concern about having 2 curb cuts on Bridgeport Avenue. So that is no longer an issue. As I think the commission knows, there is only 1 curb cut now. And then the sightline data, which we added as part of this, only for the proposed curb cut on Bridgeport Avenue. And that is shown on sheet SC-1. All of those comments that go to the plans, all of the changes that I've mentioned here were part of the April 14th drawing set and have been on since then. If you could scroll up, please, Dominic.
Oh, excuse me.
On the letter.
Whoops, wrong thing. Okay.
Wrong job.
So that's good. That's good right there. So the last 2 comments that city engineer had was a concern about the burying ground brook. And I had spoken with Remus about this and learned a bit more about his specific concern. And it was relative to a few driveways on the opposite side of Bridgeport Avenue, north of our site. In fact, north of, I believe, Constitution Boulevard, that several years ago during a heavy rainfall, culverts that go under these driveways, that carry the brook under these driveways, had washed out. And so I explained to him that I felt that our site, notwithstanding the fact that it is there is an increase in coverage on the site, I told him that I thought our site was, a small part of the overall watershed of the burying ground brook in this area. So what we did in coordination with the city engineer, what we did is we took a look at the record FEMA flood insurance study for Fairfield County. And what it shows is that in the area of the burying ground brook in the proximity of our site, there's about a square mile or just under 640, it's about 620 acres of watershed that feed through the brook at that point. And so what we looked at, we did an analysis that we included with our response letter here of the effect of that on what we call the CN, or the coverage of the surface treatment of the watershed area. And it had a almost no impact at all when you take into account our 1.5 acre site within the 620 acre watershed that is part of the Burying Brook in this area. It had almost no effect on what we call the CN, the coefficient for the surface treatment within the watershed. And so I think that, coupled with the fact that it doesn't even take into account the storage that we have proposed on the site for attenuation, we have provided a system on the site that not only provides water quality infiltration into the ground, but also provides the control of peak rates of runoff from the site at or below existing conditions. So I believe that we have demonstrated that our development is not going to exacerbate any flooding conditions in the Burying Ground Brook downstream of our site. And then finally, the statement, right? I had one more comment on there, Dunn, if you don't mind. The one below that is most municipalities need to track this now, the directly connected impervious area. It actually, and that refers to impervious area that is tributary directly to receiving storm drains without any treatment, be that through a structural system such as we proposed here, be that as some type of biofiltration across vegetated areas. And what we've demonstrated and included here is that all of the impervious coverage under existing conditions is directly connected, and virtually none of it under proposed conditions is. We are capturing all of the impervious coverage under proposed conditions and treating it through the proposed stormwater management system. And that's the sum total of the city engineer's comments there. Additionally, as Kermit mentioned earlier, in the more recent set of plans that we submitted, and to the chair's question right in the beginning, the only difference between the April 14th drawings and the more recent drawings are the few comments that were born out of the peer review. And that is really the pavement markings and signage located primarily at the Cott Street intersection, as well as the no left turn sign that will be placed at the Bridgeport Avenue curb cut.
Whoops. Oh, Dominic messed up here.
And other than that, I would just point out to the commission a couple of general, in addition, or one other change to the site plan overall as it has evolved from when it was first.
Brian, let me see if I can get him back up. I have an issue here, okay? So just hold on a second.
Sure.
I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna see if I can get the plans back up again. There was something happened to mine. Let me just see here. Yeah. Hold on. Let me.
You want me to try and share?
If you can bring it up, if you can share, why don't you try to bring it up? I seem to have had an issue with the computer.
Can you see it?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So one last comment, just to point out a change that in the evolution of the plan is, and I think it went mainly to one of Mr. Panico's comments, and it is to increase the green space that's along the frontage here. One of the changes we did was we pulled this area, this paved area here, which had been closer to Cott Street, and pulled it away, moving some of the utility infrastructure out of that area to increase the room and pull it away, increasing the green space along the Cott Street frontage. We also took, along the same vein, this had been 10 spaces of parking spaces of perpendicular spaces, which had eaten further into the green space there. We reduced it by 4 because we had 4 extra parking spaces originally. and put parallel spaces there. And that's done two things. Again, it's increased the green spaces along this frontage, but it also, somebody had a comment early on in one of the hearings that, the number of spaces of people who would have to get out of their car and cross across all of the pumps to get into the building. And so we've reduced the number of parking spaces there. And I think other than that, I think that goes to the changes that have been incorporated into it.
Are those 6 parallel spaces really practical at that location?
One of the things we were talking about is those spaces could very easily be dedicated as employee spaces,
Staff.
staff spaces.
All right. Mhm.
Was there any thought about, and this is just kind of throwing that out there, the 5 pumps just seems a little massive. Would taking out one section of the pump and being able to put in some sort of a crosswalk that would allow people to safely go through that area to get to the store? I just see this as a pedestrian hazard for both of those 2 lower lots.
I will say something that has been raised up. I've done 4 of these plus a couple of other spaces where they have to cross. And one of the points is these all have been built. There's never been an issue. I know that people, there's just never been an issue. I mean, it's something that you can anticipate that there might be, but drivers tend to, first of all, most of the cars that are going to be in this area are going to be either moving very slowly or not moving if they're waiting to use the pumps. Certainly around the outside or something, or there is plenty of room if you've been in these, and I've done 3 or 4 Cumberland Farms, there's plenty of room for someone to walk in between the 2 stopped cars at the pump without putting a thing. It doesn't look like it there. But I think, Brian, you correct me if I'm wrong, even if there's a car at each pump, there's room to go in between those 2 cars. Yes.
I don't know how other commissioners feel. I just feel it's a little massive with five pumps.
I understand where you're coming from.
I have to agree with you.
Yeah.
Mr. Parkins, so.
Seems like a good comment.
I think
Whether you eliminate half the parking spaces or not, you still have half the people walking through the pumps and through the traffic area. I thought at one time you were going to extend, looking at the front of the project, you were going to extend the parking area on the right-hand side. And that way they could just walk down and have like an aisle or a sidewalk, then across. And you'd be out of the traffic line.
That would require blasting, I believe, correct,
Yeah.
Brian?
Topographically, to go further north,
So it would require more money. Is that what you're saying?
Well,
a lot of disturbance.
Yeah, if we could avoid blasting, that would be a good thing.
yeah,
Nobody likes blasting.
No.
I just, again, I think it's a little too massive. I'd like to see just 4 pumps included in this layout.
What is the proposed direction of when the fuel tank comes in?
We have developed articulation exhibits that would allow fuel trucks to come in from either curb cut.
Right, and the area where it would be filling, they would have to, because I can see the 2 ovals that say something about underground storage tank.
Correct.
So the, is it that dot where it says no parking, loading zone? Is
I think that the trucks would articulate through there and offload from there.
All right, and what is the proposed direction for cars and other vehicles to access the pumps? Are they, if they were coming from Bridgeport Avenue and heading towards the building, are they to go circle around the back of the pumps?
Well, I think they could do it. I think they would be able to do it either way. I mean, the drive aisles on either side, the west or the east side of the pumps, is 2-way. And so I think that cars could articulate from either side. through.
While
the-
that may be the case, I think it's best to have one direction that they face. Otherwise, you've got cars facing each other. You know, if we put that into place behind the Stop and Shop one, it was, at first, they wanted to have the cars come in closest to the little driveway in front of Burger King and where the pumps were gonna be held, and I held out that, no, cars should continue further down the driveway, heading towards the back of Stop and Shop, and then they put in, come in and face Bridgeport Avenue. So I think you better look at that so that there's no conflict. When you have a tight space, I can see a little bit of congestion there occurring, and some a bottleneck occurring if cars are not directed to come in and face a certain way and exit a certain way.
Well, you got 4 cars per pump, right? 4.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
again, I think if you eliminate one of them, you'll eliminate some congestion.
Mhm.
but still.
Yeah, the volume would be down, but you still, I think, have to have a specific
Still
direction.
you could have, even if you eliminate, you could have 20 cars.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, and that's not taking into account somebody who's coming in just for the convenience store, or for, if there are occupants for the second floor retail section of the building that's proposed. So I think that the traffic pattern to access the pumps has to be determined. Okay, is there anything else, Attorney Thomas?
Just, no, for our presentation, that would conclude our presentation at this point. We'll take into account the comments that were made and the discussion, but at this point, that basically concludes our presentation for tonight, with, again, repeating that we would request that also that it be continued. We request June 22nd, and I will consult with Alex concerning the extension that is required.
Yeah, we will check to see if that date would work out best for everyone.
Okay.
So any final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission before we open it up to the public?
Commissioner Harger, you mentioned retail, or were you just referring to the retail building with the office above? You
Yeah,
had,
the retail building, it says retail building, it's identified as retail building with office above.
with office, I thought I heard you say retail above. That's why I was just asking.
I'm sorry if I made that statement.
No problem. I just think that would require more parking if they're looking to do retail up there as well.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
we are not looking to do retail up there.
Okay. And I hope no apartments either.
I'd have to be in there with a modification, but since we've been talking a lot about traffic, I just would comment to you that it would be much less traffic, but I'll just leave it at that.
Okay.
Madam Chairman,
Yes, go ahead, Mr. Panico.
I just wanted to advise the applicant that I did set down probably 5 or 6 or 7 comments, most of which are relatively minor. It's only a matter of addressing them. But there were 1 or 2. And rather than getting into a discussion of them tonight, I think I would just advise the client, the applicant, excuse me, that they'll be seeing it, and we will be looking forward to their responses.
Okay,
Okay, is this something that's already been filed? Because I don't think we have, do we have
No,
it
it
now?
hasn't been officially filed yet. I
Okay.
drafted it, and we're talking about it and making sure that we're in agreement on it.
Okay.
Some are technical. The zoning requirement requires a 10-foot green buffer strip, and you don't have it along that northerly property line. On the other hand, a slight shift of the building towards Cott Street by 5 feet or so should be able to address it. Some minor things about getting rid of the bumper blocks that you show. We've talked about it before, but they haven't been resolved. The adjustments of the parking pattern so that you end up with one of those clear spaces for the handicap spot falls directly in front of the door rather than directly in front of a car. The spaces parallel to Bridgeport Avenue are shown as 20 feet. You really can't negotiate very comfortably into a 20-foot parallel parking space. So it needs to be bumped up a little bit. Things like that, we'll get them to you.
Okay,
Oh, I'm sorry. The major concern that I have, and I'd be interested to see what the commission's concern is and what the applicant's possible solution is, between the back wall of the building and the adjacent retaining wall, they're separated by a 5-foot sidewalk, if I'm reading the plans correctly. And yet within this 5-foot sidewalk, you have anywhere from 18 to 20 or 21 feet in height of that retaining wall. I don't think that's very comfortable, and I think you have a significant negative impact on any kind of a view out of the office building windows. I would like to see at the very least an accurately drawn cross-section through the building and that areaway, and exactly what is the height of the wall. What is that wall going to look like? We see no information at all about the wall. The architect's drawings seem to show a 3-foot parapet on top of the wall. I don't know if that's true or not true. Somebody needs to sit down and document it. And if we have to do something, we have to do something. It may be that 5 feet is not enough. Maybe it's got to be 7 or 8 feet to make it more comfortable. Are there potential conflicts between the roof of the building and that narrow way or not? You can only see it when you look at an accurate cross section. So I think that should be addressed. There was one other thing I can't off the top of my. So, the space in the back is probably the one that requires the most amount of thought. The other ones with some adjustment in the building location can be overcome. Certainly the sidewalk can be made wider and the bumper blocks eliminated. And where you have the depressed curbing along the front of the handicap spaces, you can control the parking there with the bollards that are typically used to accommodate the handicap signage as well. So they just need to be taken care of. And I don't want you to walk away thinking, well, we haven't said anything, so we got no more concerns, because we do.
No, thank you for bringing all that up and that the applicant can address those when they're submitted. Okay, any further comments, questions, or concerns before we open it up to the public? Okay, Mr. Rossetti, let me just mention, if there's any members of the public who wish to speak and you're here in the auditorium, you'll need to come up to the podium and sign in. And then if there's anyone that is participating remotely, could you please use the raise hand function to allow Mr. Rossetti to identify you as a speaker? Okay. Okay, so we have one member of the public who has stepped forward here in the auditorium. Okay, so when you're ready, sir, go ahead and identify. You could leave it there. Identify yourself and go ahead.
Madam Chairman, members of the commission and staff, my name is Joel Green. I practice law in Bridgeport with the law offices of Green and Gross. It's my pleasure to be here before you this evening on behalf of 99 Bridgeport Avenue LLC. I've heard the comments and remarks by the commission this evening and Attorney Thomas's presentation, and I just wanted to confirm that the hearing will be held open. And I suppose I would also ask that perhaps we can set a schedule for sort of comments or responses. The complication that we ran into is that for a variety of reasons, many of the documents were posted on Monday, and our consultants did not have adequate time to prepare and review a written response to the commission. And perhaps we can, commission would consider, first of all, keeping the public hearing open, which as I understand, may be happening, but also perhaps we can set a date by which any further submissions by the applicant in response to the commission's comments this evening, a date by which those documents would be submitted so that we have an orderly process. So with that understanding, it's not my intention to make a presentation this evening, and I appreciate the consideration by the commission.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you, Attorney Green. Is there anybody else here in the auditorium that would like to make any comments on this particular application? Okay, Mr. Zeddy, is there anybody participating remotely that has indicated they would like to make any comments? No. Okay, if there's anybody who is participating remotely and you would like to make any comments on this particular application, especially on new material that had been filed and posted on the city's website, would you please use the raise hand function to allow Mr. Rossetti to identify you as a speaker. Okay, seeing none, and if there is no other further comments, questions, or concerns by the members of the commission, we do have the request by Attorney Green, who represents an area LLC, to continue the public hearing in order for his traffic expert review of the applicant's updated traffic report. Is there a motion to continue the public hearing on application 2125?
I'll make that motion.
There's a motion made to do so from Commissioner Kelly. Is there a second?
I'll second it, Commissioner Laskos.
Thank you, Commissioner Lasko. So on the motion to continue public hearing for application 2125 from Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Laskos, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Tiki, Commissioner Tiki, I think you're on mute.
No, I said aye. Can you hear me? Aye.
No, now we hear you. Okay, thank you. Commissioner Motto,
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly,
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos,
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins.
Aye.
Aye, and the chair votes aye. So public hearing for application 2125 is continued, and staff will have a discussion as to a date.
Just
For submission.
clarity, in addition to a traffic consultant, we'll have a consulting engineer as well.
Okay.
I just wanted to make that clear.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you, Attorney Green. All right, I think that concludes application 2124 for this evening. So moving on to the next agenda item, application 2124 Ivy Brook condominiums. Dominic Thomas for Gold Coast LLC at 7 Ivy Brook, Assessors Map 65, Lot 12 in a LIP zone, petitioning for a planned development district to include 63 dwellings with a mixed townhouses and apartments and on-site parking on a 3.07 acre parcel. Posted on the city's website is the PDD application, statement of uses and standards, site plans, revised site plans, and letters in opposition. Public hearing for this application opened February 16th, 2022, at which time the applicant's attorney, architect, and engineer presented a proposal for the 63 condo units that would be built according to the topography of the parcel. Mr. Rossetti read into the record the letters and emails received opposing the proposal. 4 members of the public spoke in opposition to the application, as well as Mr. Harbinson representing the Conservation Commission. Mr. Rossetti mentioned at the February meeting that approvals were needed from the fire marshal and WPCA. So, Mr. Rossetti, have those approvals been received?
WPCA.
I don't know if anybody can hear you. Can you come on over here?
We'll have to ask the applicant for an update on Water Pollution Control Authority. I don't remember what their meeting status is, and I do not have an update for the fire marshal's office yet.
Okay, so basically you haven't.
No.
Nothing new has come in. Okay. All right, so Attorney Thomas, do you want to start off by you or your associates explaining the revised site plans?
Yeah, before Attorney Dominic Thomas, Cohen Thomas, 315 Main Street, Durban, Connecticut, representing the applicant. I will note that, and I don't believe it's staff's fault. I don't know it's IT's fault. The March 1st report from the city engineer, the first time I saw it was when it was posted on the website on Monday. Now that report was written as if this were a site plan approval as opposed to an initial concept development plan approval. And we certainly could have had the opportunity to address it, but we did not get it until, and the only reason I got it is I was having a conversation with the city engineer and asked why he hadn't done a report on 7 Ivy Brook. And his response was that he had done a report. So we got the report, and Jim Swift, I think, will be able to address it when we get through with it. Obviously, you're waiting for a fire marshal. The fire marshal's report, I don't know exactly what he's going to say. Usually fire marshals, their main concern is when you're building the building and to determine whether it's built to code. But to update you, what transpired after all the comments and everything from the last meeting and some of the issues that were raised, and the fact that, as we explained to you, that the configuration, the last meeting was as a result of this large easement that the Planning and Zoning Commission allowed to be placed on this shrunken piece of property when it did a lot line revision back in the early 2000s to allow what is now the 2 Ivy Brook Medical Building there. That area, if they were going to use that as an easement of access, they would have to blast through substantial rock to bring it down to grade in order for them to create an access to the rear of 2 Ivy Brook from Mountain View. So there had been some discussions with the owners. Obviously, I had represented them, as you are aware. If you may be aware, when they subdivided the 2 Ivy Brook in order to have the REIT purchase the existing office building. So after our last meeting, we engaged in further discussion. And as a result of that, we were able to obtain an agreement that once an access is provided, and the reason for this is, if you recall the subdivision, there were substantial easements placed on the subdivision map, allowing access for utilities, any new utilities, and access, vehicular access to the rear building. So they still wanted the access to Mountain View to be there for whatever reason. So it was left up to Mr. Swift to design to go back to an original concept that we had once discussed, and that's what we've done. So, with hopefully the luck of being able to now go here, this is I'm still having a little trouble with the. Let me just.
You got it.
Yeah, that isn't what I'm trying to get the correct site plans up. And I will try one more time. Okay.
There it is.
Okay, so with that, I'll turn it over to Mr. Swift to discuss the changes to the site plan and to review his plans, which were provided in early April and made it onto the website, I believe, again on Monday.
Good evening. My name is Jim Swift, professional engineer, landscape architect. So on this drawing, I think my cursor is on the screen.
All right.
Yep.
Jim, do you want to share? Can you share from your?
I can share from mine. I have mine.
I'll stop share then. Why don't you go ahead and share?
Okay, go ahead. You transfer it over to my computer.
Well, I think that's Alex's job, but.
Okay. Is my display showing properly the original application?
No.
Not yet.
Not yet.
Okay, I'll hang on.
Jim, you just have to start sharing.
Did you
Mr.
hit?
Swift, you just have to start sharing,
Oh, okay. Start sharing.
whatever that is.
Share screen. There we go.
Choose the technology.
Okay,
There we
I am
go.
screen sharing.
All right.
Okay, so what you see on the screen now, I believe is the original application, and you can see that the easement that Dominic was talking about is this area over on the site on this side, which limited us quite a bit on what we could do on our site. And we have revised, and now that we've negotiated use of that property, this plan is the current plan that was recently submitted and is now on the site. And you can see what happens is that this easement that we're talking about disappears, and we've just agreed to grant access to the adjoining property owner through our main driveway. And you can see it accesses their property in this location. It's a gated access. It's primarily an emergency vehicle access. We'd be hard pressed for anybody to try and access to Ivy Brook Road, the medical center, by coming up, missing the driveway, main driveway, which is here, coming all the way around Ivy Brook, up Mountain View, and then through our project. That's just not very likely. So to get back to the physical changes to our property, what we've done is,
Hold on a minute here. That
Mhm.
area in the back is supposed to be serve what purpose again?
the adjoining property in this location.
Medical
Had an-
building,
I'm sorry,
where the medical building is.
where the medical
Adjacent
building
to
is.
it,
Yeah.
right.
The existing medical building is located in this location, and the folks there have cleared and flattened out an area in this location for a second medical building. And, you know, I'll pass on whether the status of those approvals and whatnot. But that's their basic plan.
So
And
this is only supposed to be considered an emergency access if needed, if a second building goes up.
well, no, I believe that they.
It's not to be
reserved this
designated as
easement.
an emergency access. It is an access that they have full access through the front lot, which was
Right.
done as part of the subdivision. They have full access, they have full utilities and everything. They wanted the option to have this in order to give up their easement, because if they built that easement to the property, they would have to blast substantially, I think Jim can verify, to be able to get down to the grade at the back end of the property.
Right.
So we negotiated them to have another access. It's obviously not going to be their main access, obviously not. But regardless of what you call it, we can't restrict it to anything. And
I
that,
just find it a little peculiar that if in the future we have another building that goes up on this separate lot, that there would be some kind of vehicular access to it through this proposed residential application.
well, if we stuck with the initial plan, they could have a full boulevard entrance through the rear of this property pursuant to their easement, which they would have to blast what we were trying to substantially to get down to their grade. They had the right to do it, is what I'm saying. And they are, by doing this, they are giving up the easement as long as they have some form of a connection.
Okay.
And
All
the
right, go ahead.
connection that we're providing is clearly an emergency vehicle access. This is the plan that they've seen. It's not an independent driveway in any way, shape, or form. It goes through our project. I'm making the point that it's gated. It's a gated access. It's not for general public use. So it's basically an emergency vehicle access.
Is this a drivable access at this
Oh, yeah.
point?
You know, once the gate is open, sure, you know, it's, and to be honest, it works for both parties. I mean, as an emergency vehicle access for them, it works. And if you think about it, it's works for an emergency vehicle access for us as well.
Commissioner Kelly, were you referring perhaps to, is it a fully paved area or blocks?
Well, no, they were talking about blasting to do it, so I wasn't quite sure if it was drivable at this point.
Right,
If you
okay.
could, go through it.
Mhm.
Well, okay, well, let me go to the next drawing and we'll discuss that. So here's the grading plan for that. And the way things worked out is that this area in the adjoining property is the area that was graded flat, for all intents and purposes, to build that second medical building. And we know what that elevation is. We've surveyed it. We know what it is. And this driveway, this emergency vehicle access right here, is accessible by grade. It can be driven, if the gate was open, Mr. Kelly, that is accessible.
So the slope is such that it can accommodate.
So they can go from their existing building, they can use this?
Yes, yes.
They don't have an existing building back there. That's a proposed building.
The original building.
The original building is
over in
farther
this
up to
location.
Yeah, the original building is
We'll talk
farther up and it's a
about-
separate lot. It's a separate lot, is under a separate ownership now.
Mhm.
All right, so how do they get to the road? I mean, is this
Driveway exists up there.
an access to nowheres?
No. This open flat area that they have pre-prepared for a second medical building is connected throughout all of their property back here.
Okay.
In other
That's
words,
what I-
their main
Right.
medical access driveway is located right here.
That's what I'm getting at. Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they can get in that access driveway, access the existing building and the proposed second building.
Right.
Okay.
In the subdivision that you approved for
Yeah.
them about a year ago or so, they have full easements of access and utilities through what is now the front lot.
Okay.
And that was maintained thoroughly.
Okay, go ahead, Mr. Swift.
Okay, so having that flexibility, what we've done is we talked about a lot of things at the last meeting. One of the things was parking, another was building heights. And what we've done here is now that we've negotiated the release of that easement, we've doubled the townhouse count from the original 8 townhouses in the front to a total of 16 townhouses in the back and front. And we've taken off a floor of building A, of the main building. And so our unit counts now, where we previously had a total unit count, townhouses and building A inclusive, of 63, we are now down to 57 dwellings. That's total. That's total for all the townhouses and the building A dwellings. So we've reduced the building A by a complete floor. And we've reduced the unit count by 6. Now, the second result of doing that is that the parking dynamics have changed. Even though the surface parking is the same, what we're gaining by the townhouses is we're gaining 2 garage spaces per townhouse and 2 of the apron parking spaces for the townhouses. So our previous parking count of 136 has now increased to a total parking count of 146. So to make a long story short, we're now down, we're 1 story less in height on building A. We're down 6 dwellings down to 57, and we're up to a parking count of 100 to 146. And that gives us a total parking ratio of the whole site of 2.5 parking spaces per dwelling. The grades are not significantly different. They're all basically the same. And the other thing that was requested was, so what are the height relationships in all of this? And so what I've done here is I've done a section through the site. Ivy Brook Road is down in this lower area down here. We're hiding it a little bit, but that's Ivy Brook Road. You can see a portion of the undisturbed area that we had adjacent to our lower townhouses in Ivy Brook Road. And I'll talk about that a little bit more in a second. Townhouses, building A, again, instead of 4 stories, it's now 3 stories that you can see. And then our townhouses up on the upper level, these are the new buildings. And one of the things that was talked about was the efficiency of the grading. And I'm going to trace the existing grade through the lot, which is basically this line comes up through building A, comes up in this location, up through here. That's the existing grade through the site. So you can see that we've got something of a balance on the townhouses in the upper area and the new area. We've got a pretty good cut throughout there. We've got a little bit of a fill on the uphill side of building A. The building A through the existing grade works pretty well. There's no major big significant cuts there. And then we are going to use up some of our fill down here on the existing townhouses on Ivy Brook Road. The other question that was asked was, how does this compare to buildings in the area? And that would be the medical buildings that are next door to us. The existing medical building is somewhere behind our site, right around here. And this is the building height of that building. So it's right there. So it's slightly lower than our townhouses, about half a floor lower than our building A, but that is its height. Coming back up into the rear of the adjoining property, where they have a proposed future medical office building. If they built it to the same height as the existing medical office building, which is 2 stories, that building height would be here. And that's about the location of where the building would be. So the existing medical building is slightly lower than our buildings, but not significantly so. Now, to discuss what's going on along this area between our townhouses and Ivy Brook Road. And again, it's a little bit hidden by our pictures there. But what we're going to propose there is I went and I walked it, and Mr. Kelly, you were asking this, what's the height of those trees? Right. They're scattered about. They're probably 2 or 3 or 4 of those trees are in the 60 to 70 height range. There's a lot of lower trees that are oaks, maples that are quality trees that are not that high. And so what I'm suggesting is that what we do in that area is we do make it a conservation area, but I think we should supplement it, frankly. We should add a combination of some taller evergreens such as white pine located here. You can see as you're driving down Ivy Brook, you've got, you can look up and you can see the townhouses. But one of the better suggestions I could make to further buffer that, aside from this, this rock cut that you can see, is to add in some Mount Laurel, holly varieties. Those are planting varieties that'll grow 8, 10, 12 feet tall. Of course, the white pine's significantly taller than that. And we'll have a nice, good, significant buffer down in that location. So I think we've made some pretty significant revisions to the plan, and if the commission has any questions on those issues, I'd be glad to answer them.
Yeah, I have, it's Elaine Maddow. I have a question again about parking. I can't, look at the parking. I can't accept that kind of analysis of the parking for the total site when you have 4 spaces basically for each townhouse, which is great. But so I need to know what the parking is for the apartment style building. How many units are in there and how many parking spaces are dedicated to that building?
Sure, I can tell you the number for that. If you subtract out the garage parking spaces and the apron parking spaces, that's 32 and 32. You're going to be left with 82.
And how many units are in that building? How many?
There are 41.
So, and they're 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, I can't remember. Were they all 2 bedroom?
There are 19, and Pat, you may want to check me on this.
There's 19 1 bedrooms and 22 2 bedrooms.
Yeah, that's what I have. For a total of 41 dwellings.
Yeah, so I still think that parking is tight.
Okay,
that's 2 per unit?
Yes.
Well, there's no.
I have one more suggestion, which we could do. This circular pattern that we have around the building A, I kind of liked as a designer, but we've got a lot of area over in here that we're not really using. And if you look at the grading, it's got some pitch to it, but it's definitely falls in the area of usable. Is what we can do is we can add significant amount of parking in that location. I'm going to guess.
I'd like to know what other people think as well, but this was proposed as partly a plan that would leave a lot of area undisturbed. And when we talk about the need for parking, because really you cannot have people parking, any overflow parking on the street in this area. Then you talk about, putting in more pavement. And so it just, I have a concern.
The only thing I would like to address, and I know you've brought up, and believe me, in upcoming public hearings, it's going to be addressed. There are many, you have approved some in the outer areas. This is an outer, not in the urban area. There's no issue with parking. There's been no issue with parking with the Mark. There's been no issue with parking with the Sawmill Apartments. There's been no issue with parking, and they are less than 2. So I guess I'm at a loss. It's very difficult to respond when the existing apartments, the existing high-density residential has no problem and has been around for years. I mean, the parking at the Mark, which is 228 apartments and has a clubhouse, I believe our final resolution was 1.7. And if you go there at night, I can assure you there are empty spaces. So my whole point is now we have 2. I think maybe we can dedicate something to say future area, but I'm anti-asphalt. I don't see the need, for when you have 2.0 dedicated.
I'm not asking for more asphalt. I'm questioning the density of the project overall for this site. So.
Well, I think that's
I may be out. I don't know if anybody else has the same concern or would like to comment on that, but
I would agree, Commissioner Maddow. I would agree on the overall density. I wouldn't want to lose any more green space. I don't know if it's worth a couple more spots as folks have guests and whatnot on the top part of the screen, kind of to the right of that access road. If there could be a couple more spots put in there for people if folks think it's tight. But overall, I continue to think it's a very, very dense development, even with the alterations.
That was Commissioner Ticky?
Yeah.
I was Commissioner.
Yeah.
Okay.
I would like to point out that this is zoned LIP. And in order, I think this was explained, I think by Mr. Swift or maybe Mr. Rose the last time. To put a 50, not large, but a 50 or 60,000 square foot light industrial building with the parking, you'd have to flatten this pretty good, and you'd have substantially more pavement and impervious area than you have here. That's what your zone is. So when you're looking at, and you certainly wouldn't have the conservation easement along Ivy Brook. So I'm just trying to bring it, to the point of the existing zone, unless the position of the commission is if we keep it LIP, maybe nobody will build on it and we'll have naturally occurring open space because we've made it so the person can't build anything. The fact of the matter is that
I don't think like one or the other necessarily. I mean, I appreciate the changes that have been made, but you've presented this as something that would not disturb the site very much. And when we have concerns about the parking, then you say, well, we'll just add more pavement. So
I'm not in favor of that. Yeah.
Maybe it's too, I would have been more favorable to this if it had been all townhouses, frankly, instead of the apartment building. I think is just pushing it a little too
I'd like
hard.
to see it light industrial.
Just a minor
Yeah.
correction, it's not an apartment building. These are all condominiums. There's no.
Yeah, apartment style, let's say, the building.
Yes, they're called flats and they're, in reality, they exist elsewhere. So.
Yeah.
Well, what was the square footage of those flats again?
Excuse me, I didn't hear.
This is Commissioner Ticky. What was the square footage of those flats again?
You'll have to, Pat Rose would have to do it. Commissioner Ticky, you have a big echo going on when you talk, just so you know.
Sorry.
It's difficult sometimes to hear.
The square footage of the units that are the flats are the 2 bedrooms are 941 to about 941 square feet, and the 1 bedrooms range from 659 to 701. Fairly standard, for other venues.
All right, Attorney Thomas, do you have any other material to present?
Yes, Pat Rose is going to present the architectural.
Okay, so Mr. Swift is done with his presentation.
Unshare, and I'll bring mine up.
Okay.
So, Pat Rose from Rose Tizo and Company, 35 Brentwood Avenue in Fairfield, the architect for the project. The first thing we like to go through is the parking level of the flat condominium building, which is accessed on either side from the circular drive. There are 30 parking spaces on this level. You have a lobby, elevator, mail, packages, and then a common space in the rear of that, and then 2 exit stairs, electrical and water. So utilize.
Mr. Rose, didn't we do this at the previous meeting?
Yeah.
It's the same. It's the if you want to cut to the chase.
Yeah.
What really changes is the elevation, because the apartments are the same. We've taken a level off. So
Okay.
let me get to let's go to the elevation. So instead of a 4-story building above parking, as you look at it on the downhill side, It's a 3-story building above parking.
Mhm.
That you have brick on the lower level. We have an EFS band that breaks the parking and the residential. You have, blow it up a little bit, it's not. You have horizontal siding on the first 2 levels, and then you have shakes above that, which are broken by horizontal siding, and then shakes up in the roof at the gables. Similar building to what was presented, but not exactly the same. The other one had some board and batten because it was 4 stories. That's put another material in it. We've just stayed with the siding and shakes with this. Side elevation's the same, except it's 1 less floor that you have the gables coming up to a mansard roof. The mansard roof acts as a screen to any mechanical air conditioning units up there, condensers.
So what would be the proposed height?
I'm sorry?
What would be the proposed height of the building?
50 feet,
49
something.
49 feet from the lowest level. It's 49 foot to the top.
And is it still 208 feet long?
Yes, same length. It hasn't changed. And in length, it hasn't
Okay.
changed. Correct. It's taken the floor out.
All right, what else do you have for us?
The only other thing are the other townhouses, which are very similar to the original townhouses, which are 3 bedrooms. We've gone to similar townhouse, except the townhouses that we've added are uphill style townhouses that the garage area is buried into the hill. And you, at the rear, you are at the dining room, living room, as opposed to, the garage being at the street level for the driveway. So the other downhill ones, where we're actually going downhill, and you're parking at the street, and then it goes down the hill towards Ivy Brook. Same material, same treatment of the buildings.
Mhm.
Okay, those are the
Okay.
changes.
Not as tall.
No.
Not as tall, right.
All right, does any commissioner have any questions for Mr. Rose? All right, so Attorney Thomas, any further comments?
No, that I think we've addressed all the concerns that were pointed out, and I think this layout is substantially better than the other layout, and resolves the issue of the easement and the accesses, and we believe it is a better use of the property, actually, than because of the small nature of the property. It really hasn't been developable for LIP, but if it were, it would have substantially more disturbance required. So with that, I think we've answered all the questions that were raised at the last hearing.
Okay, I will open it up to the public. If there's any members of the public who are here in the auditorium that wish to comment on the new material, especially, you can approach the podium and sign in. In the meantime, Mr. Rossetti will allow any members of the public who are participating remotely to be identified if they use the raise the hand portion. So okay, so last call for any members of the public here in the auditorium. Okay, Mr. Rossetti, you have
David and Judy.
Okay, and for the members of the public that are participating remotely, please state your name and address for the record. And the first one are Mr. and Mrs. Hessler? Presley, okay.
Pressler.
Hessler.
My
Go
name is
ahead.
David Pressler. What about accommodating visitors that are going to have to park to visit the residents in this proposed structure? It didn't look like there were many opportunities for cars to park.
Okay, Mr. Pressler, could you give us your first name and your address, please, for the record?
Yes, first name is David, last
Okay.
name Pressler, and that's 30 Bunker Hill Circle at the Shelton Four Winds condo complex.
Okay, all right, thank you. And do you have any other questions for the applicant that he will address after we
Yes.
hear all the, okay, go ahead. What's your next one?
My concern is the visual integrity of the building, the taller building from Mountain View. It really looks like a design for a sanitarium. It does not look like a residential complex. And I wondered if the architects would address the potential for a different handling of the aesthetics.
Mhm. Okay. All
Thank
right, and is that it, Mr.
That's
Pressler?
it. I will
Okay.
lower my hand.
All right, thank you. Mr. Rossetti, is there another member? Okay, and that name? Okay, is there a Mr. or Mrs. Frazier?
Yes, my name
Okay.
is M.A. Fraser. I live
First
at,
First name again, ma'am? Spell your first
it's
name?
spelled A-I-M as in Mary, E. Last name Fraser, F-R-A-S-E-R.
Okay, and your address?
23 Bunker Hill Circle.
Okay, all right, go ahead.
So I am the vice president at Shelton Four Winds, and we did deliver to you the other day, not in time to be included on the website, a letter of opposition signed by 36 of our residents.
Okay.
At that time, we were not, the information presented on the new plan was not available to us. So
Mhm.
we spoke about the previous plan. However, many of the same issues exist here. First of all, I will reiterate about the parking. The addition of 8 more townhouses gave them 32 more parking spaces, but those spaces aren't available to anyone who doesn't live in a townhouse. So out of all the parking spaces that they've proposed, 64 of them belong to the townhouses. That leaves less than 2 for the remaining flats. 1-bedroom apartments could have 2 cars, might have 1, might have 2. 2-bedroom apartment might have 1, might have 2, might have 3 cars for a 2-bedroom. Who knows? Point being that there's not enough parking here at all. Secondly, the height has been reduced somewhat, but at the previous meeting, many of the commissioners were concerned about its height and how it might stand out. The document that we delivered the other day shows some relative height, and in a different fashion. We used a photograph with some drawings on it. But even so, this building as designed or as proposed now will still be on the order of something like 15 plus feet higher than the medical center, the main building, what David called the sanitarium building. It also will be higher than the existing buildings on Mountain View Road. It will be, and then that easement, let me add about that easement, as shown, it still is fairly high. There's still kind of a cliff there where that easement road with the gated roadway is proposed to be. There's still some height there, so that will be pretty steep. Or it'll have to be blasted. That's a point I just want to add. It's not quite as simple, I don't think, as they made it sound. We are also very concerned about the density and its effect on all of the systems. Rainwater, stormwater, runoff on the road. Mountain View can be treacherous in the winter. I personally have gone down it sideways more than once, unable to stop at all until I fetched up at the curb at the bottom. Very exciting. But also, we're concerned because these are going to be condo units, apparently. And these relatively small apartments, I think, have a tremendous potential for non-residential owners, people who will be renting these apartments. And that doesn't really fit in with the whole surrounding area, which are all single-family homes. Just to have, it seems like a kind of situation where there'll be non-owners present, and a lot of turnover. That concerns us, plus the parking seems like a problem to us. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Ms. Frazier. Mr. Rossetti, is there anybody else? Okay, last call for any members of the public participating remotely who would like to make comments on this particular application. Please use the Zoom's raise hand function so that we can identify you. Okay, no? Yeah, okay, we do, all right. What's that?
Miss McCory.
Okay, is there a Miss McCory?
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you now. Go ahead.
Okay, I have my earphones on. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
My name is Laura McCory. I live at 51 Easton Court at Four Winds. Condo comp. And I have, the parking is an issue, and I'm going to explain why. The townhouses have 3 bedrooms. We live in a 3-bedroom here. And just so you understand, people who buy 3 bedrooms usually have kids, mother, whoever it is living in the house. In our situation here, we have the parking for it. I have 2 adult children who live with us, a 23-year-old, a 21-year-old, me and my husband. We have 4 cars. Not to mention the fact, and I feel like I should bring this to everyone's attention because some people don't live in this arena. I currently have my daughter's boyfriend here now. He's parked in the guest spot. Her car's in the street. My son is parked in the guest spot. He leaves. My daughter's got to go out, take her car, move it to the guest spot because we have a rule about it being on the street. A friend comes over. I had the same situation. Got to leave the car up to another guest spot. I mean, obviously we have a life. We have a 2-car garage, but my husband and I use it. We pay the mortgage. That's where we park. You're going to run into a situation where you're going to have people are buying these 3 bedrooms that have kids that are in the school district. They're going to have their teenage kids. I'm not against any of this. I'm just telling you how life works. Teenage kids are going to come over. They're going to want to hang out. You're going to have 5, 6, 7 cars somewhere. You're going to have people pissed off in the complex. I'm letting you know right now. They're going to end up parking on Mountain View. And then we're going to get mad because I don't want all that traffic. Not to mention my husband's not happy with the complex anyway. He's retired NYPD and he feels the traffic is going to be bad. And he likes that we're very quiet in the back and nobody knows where we are. It's more tendency of porch pirates. More people when you're shopping online, whatever, they deliver. Now they know where we are. It's wide open now. Constitution's a problem. Can't tell you how many times I've made a left going onto Constitution, almost got nailed. Traffic light has to be put there. It's a problem. I also worry about fire department. If there's a fire in our complex, Sue and I share a driveway. Our whole cul-de-sac is going to have to leave. The whole community. We only have one way out.
Okay.
So these are my concerns. So, the structure and all that other stuff is over my head, not really, not my arena, but this is a safety issue for me. I don't mind people want to develop. That's fine. Whatever. There's just need some common ground.
Okay, thank you very much.
And then the other thing, one more thing too,
Go ahead.
the
Go
building, the building across the street where we're on Mountain View, they're no longer there. It's like a cable company or something. The people who lived there for a long time know what I'm talking about. I don't know what, they moved out. Though the people in the condo complex are going to start parking in there now. And they're going to get mad because I think they own that place.
Mhm.
So the overflow is going to be a problem. This is just how I feel about it, you know?
Okay,
All right.
all right.
Thank you.
Laura.
You're welcome.
All right, Mr. Rossetti, anybody else have a hand up to be? Okay, all right, final call for anyone from the public participating remotely who would like to address the commission on this particular application. Please use the raise hand. Okay, no one has. All right, so Attorney Thomas, do you have a response at this time to any of the comments made by the members of the public?
Well, yes. Again, you can, it's hard to respond to speculation. The only way I can respond to speculation is that you have had in the city of Shelton numerous projects with high density, whether they're condos or apartments that you have approved. And in the outer urban and suburban ring in Shelton, in the projects you have improved, I'm not going to go through naming them, none of these parking problems have occurred, whether they're 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, even 3 bedroom. We have a situation where the 3 bedrooms have a substantial amount of parking. The claim that people are going to park on another person's property, that is what we lawyers call trespassing. I don't think I do know that this commission will will very well have an application in front of it for the repurposing and reuse for light industrial purposes of one of the empty buildings. I'm not sure if that's what's being referred to, but the fact of people parking out in a Mountain View, and I don't think is a reasonable possibility because there's no experience in the existing proposals that you have approved where that has occurred. Plus the fact that you have really approved apartments ranging from 1.5, that's not me, I don't have a dog, from 1.5 to 1.7 parking, and it's been successful. There have been no issues. So that's how I can address that. With respect to the look of the building like a sanitarium, I can defer to Pat to explain it. Sometimes it is a little difficult for someone to appreciate the look of the buildings in a black and white elevation. But Pat, can you address of what it looks like, what the buildings look like from from Mountain View Avenue at all?
Yeah, from Mountain View Avenue, essentially you're seeing the side of the building, which is relatively small. It's 65 feet wide by 40 something feet high. And it's broken up by there's an entrance into the parking, and you've got 2 floors of horizontal siding, and then a 3rd floor which is horizontal siding and shakes with 2 gables on the end of that building. It's relatively simple. It's actually not very large from Mountain View.
I don't know what else we can, how else we can address it. We think it's an appropriate architecture similar to what's been done and very successful within the town of Shelton. The one things I would like to point out in response to some of the talks is that if you look at your LIP Schedule B, The height of the buildings in LIP is 40 feet, and the height of the buildings here are very slightly high. The middle building is slightly higher than 40 feet, but not much in the situation. And I think the more significant thing is that under LIP, you're allowed up to 75% of the site impervious. And what people have to realize, and I think you can realize it very well as commissioners, since you've been involved in some of the applications, if you look at light industrial buildings in the general vicinity here, there's one thing that they all have in common. The site has to be flattened. So you look at the construction on the road across the street. Why am I think? I think it's Waterview. I'm not sure what the loop is across the street. I think it's Waterview Drive, but I'm not sure. That one, you look at some of the construction going on there, the site has to be flattened to accommodate the building in light industrial. This one is going to be built to the topography. Mr. Swift explained to you that there's fills and cuts. There's cuts and fills to some extent. It will be balanced. And I think if you look at it, there would be substantially more green being able to be preserved on the site. So this is a light industrial area. And I think the other thing you have to realize is you do have some empty buildings up there. And you may be hearing a lot of this going forward, but you all have to understand that work-live is a planning tool. But it's not just a planning tool, it's a marketing tool for light industrial and office buildings. So when the landlord goes out to market that building, the ability to say, we do have residential in and about the area is a benefit. And you are more than welcome to research it with asking real estate agents, realtors, commercial realtors, or landlords. Work, live is a benefit. And given the fact that this site was butchered 20 years ago and cut down from its original size, which may have impacted its ability as a light industrial building, I think that this is an appropriate use for the site. And I don't think the parking, there's any substantiation for any issue on the parking. Thank you.
Okay, so those are comments from Attorney Thomas in response to comments made by members of the public. Are there any final comments, questions, or concerns from the commission? Mr. Panico, do you have any comments or questions for the applicant?
No, the comments or questions that I would have are very site specific and building specific, not the overall impact of it.
All right. Well, seeing that there are no further questions.
Chair, this is Commissioner Lasco. So I just
Okay, go ahead.
agree with an earlier statement by Commissioner Parkins that I would rather see it as a light industrial also.
Okay. All right. Well, I was just going to ask the commission if, seeing that there are no further questions, what is the commission like to do? Would you like to continue the public hearing or close it? I will entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to close it.
Okay, there's a motion from Commissioner Kelly to close the public hearing for application 2124. Is there a second?
Commissioner Parkins will second.
Okay, there's a second from Commissioner Parkins. So on the motion to close the public hearing for application 2124, Commissioner Kelly, seconded by Commissioner Parkins. I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Kelly?
Aye.
Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Lascos?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
And the chair votes aye. I'd like to continue with a discussion on this particular application. This application to change the current LIP zone is one that I am not in favor of as well. I don't see using this particular parcel as a residential use to be of benefit to the city. This area is non-residential in nature, and I feel having this parcel as a residential use is inappropriate. I feel that this site is more suitable for an industrial use. And I feel this site should be preserved in its current zone for non-residential development, as had been done in the majority of this neighborhood. So I'll ask other commissioners for their comments. Commissioner Laskos, you did speak up once already. Did you want to expand on yours at all?
I think I agree with what you just said and what Commissioner Parkins has said earlier.
Okay. All right.
Chairman, this is Commissioner Ticky. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Yes, I would agree. From the get-go, I was not too interested in this development in terms of the zone change. I agree that I think industrial is the right fit for this particular area that we are in Shelton, and we're seeing that there is a need for industrial, as we always say, where the market demands. And after the pandemic, there is a renewed interest in light industrial and distribution, and businesses are moving to Connecticut. And I think that this would be wise for the land to be kept as industrial and to not make this a residential development.
Mhm. Okay, thank you, Commissioner Tiggy. Anyone else?
Yeah, I would like to.
Commissioner Kelly?
Yeah, say that even though the project presented is not a bad looking project, it just doesn't fit in the area.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. Commissioner Parkins or Commissioner Motto?
No, I can, oh, go ahead, Elaine.
No, I'm interested in this kind of thought about keeping it industrial. I think that makes sense. I would have been much more receptive to this as a residential project if it had been only townhouses, and if they had really spared, the original argument was that it would really spare the site a lot of disruption. And I don't see that this plan does that.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't like the plan as is for sure. And
Mm-hmm. Okay. And Commissioner Parkins?
I'll just agree with everything that's been previously said. I have not really been interested in this project from the beginning. So it's just too dense for that location. And I just don't like the flat style condo apartments, if you will, because I just feel, and I've said that from the beginning, what could potentially happen there.
Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Well, unless there's any other comments from the commission, it would seem that there's a consensus that the commission is not in favor of this application. So I will direct staff to prepare a resolution for denial. All right, that closes application 2124. Thank you, everyone. And the last thing on the agenda is approval of the April 27th, 2022 minutes. Does anyone have any comments or changes or corrections to the 27th minutes?
look good to me.
I have no comments.
Okay.
I wasn't there.
Okay. All right, well, would anyone
make
like
a-
to motion
I'll make a motion to approve the April 27th minutes
as submitted?
as submitted.
Okay, so there's a motion from Commissioner Parkins to approve the April 27th minutes as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Okay.
Otto.
Commissioner Otto. All right, so on the motion to approve the April 27th minutes as submitted from Commissioner Parkins, seconded by Commissioner Motto, I'll do a roll call. Commissioner Ticky?
Aye.
Commissioner Motto?
Aye.
Commissioner Laskos?
Aye.
Commissioner Parkins?
Aye.
Commissioner Kelly?
I wasn't at present, so I'm going to abstain.
Okay, Commissioner Kelly is abstaining and the chair votes aye, so the motion to approve minutes of April 27th as submitted is approved by a vote of 5-0-1. All right, seeing that there's no other agenda items, the chair declares the meeting is adjourned as of 8:29 p.m. Thank you, everyone, and we'll see you all next week
See you later.
on May 25th.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.
Have fun in Hawaii, Bruce.
Thanks.